Hey guys, today's guitar riff lesson is going to be just a little different. I'm actually going to show you how to play 3 classic rock style riffs. Alright, so we're going to jump right into learning these 3 classic rock style riffs, but make sure you hang around to the end of the video. 2 things I'm going to show you. First, we're going to do some tone talk. We're going to talk about the tone that you're about to hear. I'm going to show you how to get that. Also, I'm going to share with you why I did a lesson on this specific style. So this is a pretty simple riff here, and again, it's got that classic rock gritty edge to it, and even just the notes that we're playing with the chords that we're integrating here just gives it that feel. Kind of takes you back in time to that era where classic rock was just dominating, and I think today still it kind of dominates too, because a lot of people still listen to the older stuff, sometimes more than the newer stuff. We're doing a simple walk up. I'm on the A string, and I'm just doing a very simple walk up from A, and then we're going to hit frets 2 and 3. Almost sounds like I'm going into Skynyrd's Simple Man, but that's not quite what we're doing here. We're kind of making up our own stuff with this lesson here. So we're going 0 on the A string, 0, 2, 3. That's the notes. The little caveat here is I'm kind of doing a hammer on from the open string to the 2nd fret. So I'm picking that open note on the A, and this is what gives it that little texture that you're hearing there, that little feel, okay? So I'm going open, kind of hammering down on that 2nd fret, and then I'm gonna pick the third fret there. So pick open, hammer down on 2nd, pick the 3rd fret. Now from there, I'm almost playing a C chord, okay, just a standard C. I'm not playing the entire chord, but I'm just kind of arpeggiating down after that. Just those first 3 notes, all right? After that, all I'm doing is I'm going back to that 2nd fret, and I'm going to arpeggiate one more time. So that's kind of the first part of that riff there. Really, really simple. We're kind of just walking up and then walking right back down. Not sure where we're walking to, but hey, it sounds cool. Now after that, I'm just playing a basic D chord, but I'm not hitting all the notes when I strum that D. I'm just hitting those first few notes. Now, after we take our little walk here, walking up and walking back down, I'm just going to go to a regular D chord after that, but I'm only going to play the first 3 notes of that D chord. So really, I'm only going to play the D, the G, and the B strings. Now, I throw a little palm muting in there, but you'll notice I'm doing kind of a little chord riff, or there's probably a fancy word for this, but what I'm doing is I'm taking my first finger off of that G string 2nd fret and then back on to give it this sound. Now you guys have seen me do a similar little tactic there in several of my metal riffs, but it's just basically playing a chord but throwing in that extra little hot sauce on the chicken wings type thing, okay? So that's all I'm doing, that entire thing there. And what I'm doing for this specific riff is I'm playing that through 1, 2, 3 times. So here it is again. Now the 4th time around, And again, this is not even a song, by the way. You guys know I make this stuff up like either during the video sometimes or right before the video. I'll play something, I'm like, that sounds cool. I want to share it with my YouTube audience. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. So that fourth time around, I just land on just a basic A chord there. Kind of like a power chord, but I'm pretty much playing the full power chord, so that open A string and then the next 2 strings, 2nd fret. So it's now, to keep this extremely simple, there's only 3 chords that surrounds this little progression here, and that's the A, the C, and the G. And we're really just playing some basic power chords. Now, I was probably starting to play about a gazillion classic rock songs right there, just going from that A to C. All right, but what separates this and what gives us that little classic rock grit, if you will, is those notes that we're kind of doing like a half bend. And this kind of southern-fies the classic rock riff. I think we just made up a word, because a lot of times classic rock, even there's a lot of British classic rock bands, obviously, a lot of times you'll hear the southern rock, which is kind of the American classic rock. All that sort of blends together, if that makes sense. But anyway, so we're playing the A power chord, and I'm kind of hitting that twice, okay? And then after that, I'm going to that 3rd fret of the 1st string, that little G note. I'm going to give it a little bend there before I go back to that A note. Now, after I bend, and it's not a full bend, just a little, but it's very quick, obviously, but I wanted to kind of like show you just that little part there. After we do that little bend, just give it a little tug, we're going to go right back and hit that open A note. I'm not going to hit the entire chord. I'm just going to pick that open A note, because after that, I'm going to immediately do the exact same technique on the A string 3rd fret for that C note. So just like this. Okay. Now, we probably just started to play a ton of classic rock songs and they kind of have that little piece in there. So after I do that, I'm going to go back to the 1st string 3rd fret. So we just kind of hop back and forth a little bit, okay? Now, after I play that riff one time, I just go to a C and a G. And then I'm going to end it with another little bend on that 1st string 3rd fret before going back into the riff or before ending the riff. So just like this. That last part, same bend. Now, a little trick, at least this helps me. Okay, let me just back up real quick because I'm kind of palm muting those chords a little bit. If you can't capture the full cadence of what I'm doing, if you're playing something a little different, that's okay. The goal here is not for you to learn these specific riffs exactly the way I'm playing them. The goal is just to grasp the concept of what we're doing here and just apply your own style and own technique and what you hear as you're playing these riffs. That's what I really want for you out of these types of lessons. I want you to, capture what I'm doing here, but more so capture the essence of what I'm doing and apply the concepts. Don't worry about playing everything exactly the way I'm playing them, if that makes sense, okay? So I'm doing some little palm mutes in there. Kind of just play what sounds good or what feels better coming out of your style when you're doing this. Alright, so this third and final classic rock style riff, we've got some more moving pieces in this one, and of course you're probably hearing like 20 songs immediately throughout this riff here. To me it kind of reminds me of Boston's Peace of Mind just a little bit, until we get to that last part there where we kind of throw in like a sharp or flat, however you want to call it, and we'll get to that. Then it kind of turns into a Skynyrd style song. All right, so we'll break this down kind of slowly here. I'm starting out on the A and D strings with the E down here, and what I'm doing here, we're kind of giving it that really southern rock style flavor with this little riff here. All I'm doing is I'm using my first and third finger for the power chord, which, because we're playing it, you know, so far down the neck here, or up the neck. I always get up, down mixed up when we're talking about necks for some reason. You guys can correct me in the comments and tell me which one's right. We're playing in a position where the frets aren't so far apart, so it's easier to play the power chord, right? We're on frets A and D string, frets 7 and 9. It's easier to play the power chord with your first and third finger. That frees up your pinky finger here to go back and forth on that 11th fret on the D string. So that's exactly what I'm doing. And you'll hear me, I'm picking that first note there, right? That E note, which is again the A string 7th fret. I'm picking that in between the chords. So let's go through that again. And that last little piece there is just a little bit quicker and a little bit more snappy going back. So let's go through it once more. Now after that, I'm going to go to an A chord, kind of, you know, a half A chord, because I don't play the entire A, more of an extended power chord kind of thing. Then I'm gonna do a little riff that we did in a prior exercise on that 3rd fret of the E string before going to the next chord, which is an E, okay? And then after I play that E, I'm gonna hit those lighter notes at the end. So this is how that sounds. Now that could have been just a riff on its own, because that sounds really mean and edgy and gritty, but very much it's got that classic rock feel to it. So now the second part to this riff, we basically start the same way we did before. So I'm going to an A just like we did the first time, but I'm going to play this A in a different spot. I'm going to show you why. So we're going to the A played on the E and A strings, the 5th and 7th fret. I hit that little flat note or sharp note, whatever you want to call it again. So B flat, right? It goes from A. That little chromatic piece there, and that really kind of southernifies it again. I should have called this southern rock instead of classic rock, but again, I think it kind of all flows in the same subgenres here. So the reason though why I'm playing that A where we're playing it is because as I go up, I'm going to be playing a B power chord, and I'm playing it down here because it's in the same position that we play our A power chord, and it's because we're throwing in that other little classic rock technique, swinging back and forth here. If I tried to play that up here, I can do that, right? But I've got far more of a stretch here. See that stretch? Yeah, I can pull that off, but it's just not that comfortable. And if I were playing live, if you're playing live, sometimes you want to play what's a little bit easier and more comfortable so that you have the sustainability to last, right? Your fingers get tired if they're stretching like that all the time. So going here, much easier. And to end it here all we're doing is just playing that B power chord. Again, on the E and A strings, we're on frets, same frets as we played the E, how we started, right? We're on frets 7 and 9. And it's the exact same riff, right? So that's pretty much it. Now, since this riff was a little bit more complex and a little longer, I'm just going to go through it one more time for you here, okay? Now, how about that tone that you just heard? Yep, it's time for some tone talk. Before I get into the amp settings though, I want to share real quick how I captured this. So I didn't mic the amp this time. Sometimes I'll do that. A lot of times for lessons though, I don't really want to mess with miking the amp and having to sync the audio, video, all that. And that's why I picked up this Rode mic. This is the Rode Video Mic, or Video Pro Video Mic NTG. Something like that. I know it's got the NTG at the end of it. So that's what I'm using to capture a lot of my lesson videos. It just makes my life a little bit easier and it captures a decent enough sound. I'm using my, of course, my EVH 5153. This is the EL34 tube, and I'm using the blue channel. There's a green, and that's your clean channel. There's a blue, that's kind of your rock to heavy metal channel. You can get a variety of tones out of that. And of course, you got your red channel for your fire breathing gain. I like fire breathing gain. That just sounds cool. Anyway, we're talking about the blue channel here, so that gives my wider range of tones that I can capture. Now, the important factor of this tone is look where my gain setting is. It's it's way down there. Now my EQ, nothing really special going on here. I've got my bass straight up and down. I've got my mids cut just a little. That's just what I prefer. Some people like more mids with this style of music, and that's okay. You just have to use what you prefer. And I've got my highs cranked up just a little bit, just boosted, not really cranked up. And then my presence is just shaved off a hair there, so around like 4.5. Oh, and the guitar, well, you guys saw what I was playing, but this is my, for those of you who are new to my channel, this is my longtime friend here, the Ibanez Prestige RG1570. And yeah, these are stock pickups. I actually had changed these pickups out. These are the V7, S1, and V8. I actually changed them out a couple of months ago to some DiMarzios, and I ended up changing them back. I ended up taking it back, and I had these stock pickups put right back in. I have a whole video on why I did that. I'll throw that up here for those of you who haven't seen that yet. So anyway, now let's move on to why did Jason give you guys a classic rock video? You're probably thinking, dude, this is more of a metal guitar channel, and I think a lot of you appreciate this style of music as well, because you know, metal and rock and classic rock and all those styles are guitar based. So I think a lot of us guitar players do appreciate different styles. I know, you know, in my early years, I was kind of guilty of just, if it didn't sound like Master of Puppets or Guns N' Roses or Megadeth or whatever, then I don't want anything to do with it. So that mentality really caused me to miss out on a lot of good music. I was so kind of boxed in on one particular style, you know, and that's okay, because that's what inspired me back then. But, you know, as I grew as a musician, and I guess as a person as well, I missed out on years of just discovering some of that older classic rock. My range has greatly broadened. I even listen to a little country these days, which is kind of crazy, because I used to would not touch country with a 10-foot pole. I'd hear it and I'm like, no country. But who knows, maybe I'll do a lesson on that. And I'm not trying to change this channel. You know, this channel is always going to be, by the way, primarily a metal guitar channel. But I do like to branch out and do some different styles and show you some different styles. And here's why. Here's the whole point that I've been taking so long to get to here. Classic rock, I think that a lot of heavy metal was kind of built on that. Yeah, you had some heavier stuff back then as well, but I think there's something about the classic rock sounds, how the chord progressions were being used. They had some riffs in there, which I think a lot of heavy metal bands and metal guitarists their roots kind of go back to that. I know a lot of them go back to blues as well, but their roots, a lot of those folks, a lot of the famous guitar players that you know, a lot of it does kind of go back to some of those styles. And I think it kind of crosses over and integrates very well with metal music. What I'm saying is I think that if you integrate some of what we learned today in this lesson into your metal guitar playing, I think you might be like, wow, I just came up with a completely new sound than what I'm used to playing. And I kind of like it. That was the whole point of doing a classic rock style lesson, is just to kind of break away from the metal just for a little bit. We're going to come back to it, don't worry, it'll probably be in the next video. But I just want to share a different style with you so that you can integrate some of the concepts into even your metal playing if you want to. And again, you'll be surprised at what you come up with. You're like, oh man, this sounds different. I like it. Or you might be like, this sounds different, I'm not really sure about it. Give it some time. I think you'll start to like it. Alright guys, let me know in the comments what you thought about this lesson, and let me know if it helped you. Remember a couple things. I do have my free practice guide that I'm giving away. There's a link in the description, and a lot of you know this. A lot of you who are already following my channel, you know I just released my very first guitar course. It's called Metal Riff Master. I'll throw a link in the description for that course as well. But before you do that though, if you're not signed up on my email, which is the free guide, make sure you do that first. So I'll kind of put those in order, number 1 and number 2. Make sure you're signed up on my email, then go check out the course. A lot of people are loving that course. Again, it's called Metal Riff Master, and that link will take you to a page that'll tell you all about it. I've got a little video up there, but it's kind of a no-brainer not to dive into that with everyone else, so make sure you check that out. Guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel, my music, my video, and now my courses that I'm putting out there. Please give this a thumbs up if it helped you. I'll see you soon on the next video. Until then, keep it, well, I guess we're not keeping it metal today. Let's just say keep it southern rock or classic rock for today, and then we'll keep it metal on the next video.